Welcome to the Seekers of the Lost Stuff podcast, a place where we follow a motley crew of adventurers whose paths have converged through coincidence, necessity, and the irresistible draw of a significant payday. Working for the Museum of Unnatural Objects and Artifacts, MUNOA, they have no idea what they'll be asked to do next. Let's meet the primary players of this ongoing saga. We have Prick Dagger, the wandering wood elf bard and scoundrel whose musical talents and volatile luck are always a source of drama or conflict. Alongside him is Varela Moondirge, or Vera as she's called, the tiefling bard who makes up stories and songs and is always eager to perform. Keeping a watchful, if slightly irritated eye on Vera is Pudge Plodhammer, the mountain dwarf paladin, who is so absolutely committed to her safety that he'll often volunteer to serve as security for their events. Then there is Bronwyn the Unheard, a wood elf ranger determined to track down the dragonborn responsible for the destruction of her home and family. The halfling rogue, Donduit Half-Assed, an incredibly inquisitive street urchin from the Buttes who joined the group after being caught attempting to pickpocket Prick Dagger. Providing necessary, though often begrudging clerical aid is Sister Hildegard, a zealous high elf cleric on a forced pilgrimage to find her own ministry. And finally, rounding out the group, the often whining academic, Professor Barnabas Slaterbug III, a renowned halfling wizard forced out of his comfortable academic life at the Pearl Tower and into the field by his supervisor, the damnable Dean Ford Harrison. This group has faced a myriad of extraordinary challenges already, from dangerous wildlife to alternate planes of existence. No telling where they might end up next, so let's settle in for another tale from the records of the Seekers of the Lost Stuff. It's the 19th of Elo, Fire's Day. After sending their message to the Museum of Unnatural Objects and Artifacts, the group takes a couple of days to rest, recover, hone their skills, and reflect on what they've learned while they wait to hear back. Varela Moondirge and Donduit Half-Assed spent the first day keeping their ears open for news of Prick, and then started actively searching for him the second day. Prick Dagger has been absent on a self-appointed task, finding the optimal location for an amazing concert. He travels all over the towns of High and Low Butte and finds potential places, but he wants to do something really big or at least interesting. While he finds some adequate locations in town, they don't quite seem to be what he wants. So he heads down to the docks to see if he can't get a boat and review the coastline for locations. Playing a game of chance with a local, he won the usage of a small rowboat and started scouting out the shoreline. Prick finds a great location along the beach that has natural amphitheater and some cliffs down to the water. But as he is rowing his boat back to the docks, he's swept out to sea by a rip current and a fierce yet very short-lived squall. Prick rows all through the night, battling the waves and wind and current that slowly but inevitably pull him out to sea. Eventually, the natural elements abate and he is able to get out of the current. The seas calm nearly as quickly as they got rough. He starts rowing for Low Butte, and just as the sun rises, he sees the docks, redoubling his effort, and with restored hope and vigor, he makes the final efforts towards safety. Meanwhile, Vera and Donduit had convinced the rest of the party to aid in looking for Prick. Professor Barnabas Slaterbug III is entirely inconvenienced by this, but agrees for a walk down to the docks, just to stretch a little, as Sister Hildegard reminds him of the importance of exercise. Pudge Plodhammer is left sleeping at the inn as nobody really wants to disturb him. Bronwyn, the unheard, doesn't seem to be perturbed by the absence of Prick, but decides to go along as she's interested in listening for rumors of dragonborn activities, and the Low Butte docks seem a good place to start. So everyone heads down to the docks, just as Prick causes a commotion rowing in. After they help the very tired Prick Dagger back onto the dock, a hail of tomatoes rains down on the group, followed by a very apologetic gnome, Daphie Hornspark. She stumbled onto the dock while trying to set down her tomatoes to come and assist Prick, having seen him rowing from the ship. Serendipity. Just then, a man in a pristine naval uniform, standing on the dock, looking over the mess with disdain, barks at the gnome sailor. Daphie, if you do not get your chores done before muster and ship out, you're through in my navy. The diminutive sailor bursts into tears, begins begging for the party's help. She has 3 chores she must get done, and now only 2 hours left to do them in. Admiral Windar really has it in for her, and this is an impossible task for any sailor, she claims. It does look fairly insurmountable for a single individual as she lists out the tasks. And she offers to pay 80 gold pieces, the equivalents of her entire pay for the upcoming voyage, for their help. Sister Hildy is disinterested in Daphie's problem, as it sounds like a military discipline situation, which she approves of to an extent. Vera is very uninterested and leery due to a previous encounter with a gnome that went sour. But Bronwyn is struck by the pleading, or the gold, and agrees to help, so Hildy begrudgingly agrees to help, and the rest of the group follows their lead. The first chore is to haul all the supplies aboard the ship and to stow them as directed by Ella, the quartermaster. As the group hauling the barrels and crates aboard, as the group is hauling the barrels and crates aboard and below decks, the immense bugbear quartermaster, Ella, directs them where to put them, brooking no conversations. There are 20 crates or barrels to haul aboard. Hildy, Bronwyn, and Donduit and Prick all grab a crate and walk up the gangplank. While the crates are not packed to be ridiculously heavy, it does take a certain amount of skill to navigate the gangplank while carrying them. Vera makes it look like she is interested in helping, but really has no aspirations to break a sweat for someone else. She is, however, very interested in snooping around the ship and asks what task is next. The ship appears to be a pristine, nearly new naval vessel, a scouting vessel, probably by its size not being overly large. And so she's wondering if there might not be some interesting, if not military grade, loot to be found on board the vessel. Daphie notes that splitting up might be a great idea, and as the time constraints will become a problem if they do not. So Daphie guides Vera, Professor Slaterbug III, and Don DeWitt to the captain's quarters, where they're tasked to prep the room for the captain. Don DeWitt and Vera immediately begin trying to case the room for valuables. Don DeWitt searches the desk and only finds the ship's log and the captain's navigational charts. Vera checks under the mattress but does not find anything of value. Finally, Don DeWitt opens the armoire, and within it is a swarm of rats and one particularly large rat. It seems they were disturbed while enjoying the remains of some pastries from a box in the bottom of the armoire. The swarm immediately launches itself at the intruder, Don DeWitt biting and scratching. Don DeWitt strikes back his best to try and stomp and slash as many rats as he can, but they're crawling all around him. Vera, using a bit of bardic magic, is able to put the rats to sleep while Professor Slaterbug III runs for help. Daphie grabs a sheet from the captain's bed and scoops all the rats up into the sheet and hands it to Vera, who then dashes out of the cabin, up the stairs, and drops the rats overboard while hanging on to the corner of the sheet. She then returns to the cabin. Finding clean sheets in the armoire, they fix the bed and head topside. There's one job left: swab the deck. Daphie tells them that she did it earlier, but it wasn't good enough to pass Admiral Windar's inspection, as Prick, Hildy, and Bronwyn were still hauling goods on board, and they had to go to the bow to get below the deck. She encourages them to start swabbing at the aft of the ship. Daphie fills mop buckets with water, emptying one of the barrels, and then she goes to help the others hauling crates again, while Donduit mops and Vera and Professor Slaterbug use magic to manipulate their mops. Bronwyn finishes hauling the crates and sees the water buckets are getting low. So she goes to open them and refill them. She opens what originally looks like maybe a tar barrel at first, but then it starts moving. Bronwyn quickly attempts to slam the lid down on the barrel, but she's too late. A gray ooze rises up, pushing the lid out of the way, a second ooze following close on its heels. Focusing on Bronwyn, Prick takes up a defensive position, waiting for an opportunity to assist or strike. Sister Hildy blasts the ooze on her right with a guiding bolt spell, really walloping it and illuminating it so others would have an easier time hitting it. Bronwyn swings and misses with her sword while Donduit fires an arrow right into it. The arrow buries itself in the ooze as if it was ballistics gel, leaving a visible path into the ooze, and then is dissolved before it can exit out the back. Daphie runs forward to attack the ooze, but slips and falls head over heels in the open and empty water barrel. Vera points at one of the oozes and concentrates. She remembers these types of creatures are from a cave near her home, incredibly dangerous. She lets everyone know they're immune to fire, cold, and acid damages, and they dissolve or break down weapons that might strike them or come in contact with them. She calls the creatures the gray oozes. Professor Slaterbug III casts Magic Missile, which slams into the ooze, seemingly disorienting them, as when they attempt to attack Bronwyn, not only do they miss, but they end up slamming themselves together, forming a much larger gray ooze. Prick, taking the opportunity, sings a sweet ditty that reminds Bronwyn of her home and inspiring her. Hildy blasts the monstrosity with guiding bolt a second time. The ooze begins undulating and sputtering. Bronwyn smacks the creature with their staff, watching the staff deteriorate as it passes through the body of the ooze and out the other side. Donduit fires a second arrow, which again dissolves as it pierces the ooze and moves through it. Vera moves to Donduit's side and casts Cure Wounds. Professor Slaterbug III hits the ooze with Magic Missile, again doing significant damage, but not disorientating it in any way, as the large ooze, making a hammer-style pseudopodal arm, slams down on Bronwyn. It seems a monumental task before them, the ooze never letting on if it is hurt or not. Each blow seems to be absorbed and ignored. Sister Hildy provides Bronwyn with some healing. Donduit keeps firing arrows. Bronwyn swings and connects with their staff until finally Prick charges in, knowing the risk to his weapons, draws his two daggers, and with a fierce double slash turns the massive ooze into a sludgy puddle, just as Ella is running forward, brought above deck by the commotion. Ella goes and pulls Daphie, who is very stuck, out of the barrel, and Daphie has in her hands a very finely made looking glass. Prick identifies the looking glass as a looking glass of far seeing, and Admiral Windar arrives and is appalled at the state of the Serendipity's deck. He begins sputtering and howling about how there is no way this passes inspection, and how he intends to throw Daphie out of his navy. Ella, the quartermaster, observes that Daphie did find something incredibly invaluable and important to him, and that she did bring on help to destroy the ooze before any real damage was done. Sister Hildy also jumps in to defend Daphie, berating the admiral for having secured supplies that were in fact containing monsters. While Sister Hildy is dressing down Admiral Windar, Daphie addresses the rest of the group and gives them a heartfelt thank you. She gives Bronwyn the coin purse with 80 gold pieces and continues showering praise on them. Then the captain arrives and comes aboard the vessel. Conferring with the admiral over this situation, after hearing what occurred and listening to Ella's additional details, he calls Daphie over and informs her that she has just been given the rank of ensign and a raise. The party disembarks from the Serendipity. Just before she puts out to sea, Prick Dagger drops 10 gold pieces inside Daffy's pocket without anybody's knowledge. Feeling sympathy for her having given up all of her voyage pay just to get their help. And then, with the rest of the party, disembarks back to the docks. As the party regroups on the docks and watches the ship get underway, some of them start wondering, where is the MUNOA guy or gal? When will they hear from him or her?